Hey, what's up? I'm just popping in with the video, and I just wanted to most things I think in life we've been called a lot of things, but I don't think I've yet been called a cheapskate. Maybe a spendthrift, but not a cheapskate. And but this one I'm really getting cheap with this because I got about a half of a percent of battery. But I really wanted to get this video off while I got the energy that came to me today. And as you hear this video, you might hear some birds in the background, and that's actually what I was thinking about today. Is so you know, you think if you've ever seen, like, I had a video, one of my not the last video series but the first one, the video started with some crows fighting in a tree. And a lot of times you don't actually know who people are until they start fighting, or what they are to each other or what they're capable of. And sometimes you see birds fighting and it's very sophisticated if you see birds fighting. Also birds hunting each other, but birds fighting. I've seen some unique things with birds before. One time I was behind my building or my parents' building when I was living with them, and I was in the back eating lunch outside, where sometimes you see the most interesting things when you're somewhere you weren't supposed to be or you wouldn't normally be under normal circumstances, but you deviate from your own habits or patterns. So I was in the back of the building outside, eating like a salad, like lunch, and there was a cardinal that flew to a tree, like at the top of a tree, and then an actual hawk swooped in under the tree, and that hawk had been pursuing the cardinal, and then the hawk was like creeping up the tree, up on the cardinal. And the cardinal, you could appreciate that the cardinal understood that it was being pursued by the hawk. But it's just very interesting because these are very rare and profound, exceptional birds in the first place to see either of those. Every once in a while I'll see a blue jay, or every once in a while a cardinal, where my parents lived, and then also I'll see a hawk in that neighborhood every once in a while. I've seen a few, I think I might have seen one or two bald eagles in town, but not, I don't think in town, but I've seen hawks in town. And so that was just quite a spectacle. But sometimes you actually don't know how how sublime birds are until you see them like maybe chasing each other or flirting, or same thing with like squirrels too. Like sometimes I was doing when I was a school bus driver earlier this year, I was waiting for my first stop of the day, and there's this neighborhood where it had like these two trees on opposite sides of the streets, way up at least 70 feet in the air, these two branches that connected. And these two squirrels were flirting and kind of like chasing each other like friends, and they go right up the tree and across, they jump across the one tree to the next at 70 feet in the air. And it's so acrobatic, so sophisticated, yet also daring, because I've never seen a squirrel actually get jacked up falling from something. Maybe in nature they would have just fallen to the forest and that they wouldn't have really got hurt from that. But we got concrete now, so there had to be something of risk, daring, and skill in what they did. But they just did it like nothing. And then the next day I see another couple squirrels do the same thing like nothing. Now they didn't even understand that they had done something that incredible. But sometimes you see birds do stuff very sophisticated, and it actually makes you wonder how intelligent are they? Or it almost, sometimes we think of animals as being like unconscious or less than conscious, but that might actually be a greater form of conscious, like just like pure instinct without second guessing instinct. But you could almost say that they're both more conscious and less conscious, maybe at the same time or maybe differently. And the author Arthur Avalon has said that if you appreciate different grades of existence, grades is not that's not ranking, that's just in terms of the scope of awareness and the mode of activity. All different things to exist, according to Arthur Avalon in his works, The World as Power. There's no complete separation of matter and sentience, that is consciousness, and all things that have consciousness have some form of matter that corresponds to that, and all matter has some forms of sentience or conscience. And I can't enunciate sentience, but just more or less crudely consciousness that would correspond to that. But he said from that standpoint, there's some things can be actually realer than real, like realer than whatever we think is real. Now, to me, life feels realer when I take my glasses off. Life looks realer. It looks like it's existing right now. When I have glasses on, it almost looks like fate, like it's already been decided. When I have my glasses on, you appreciate that this is real, existing in reality. And maybe a better word than reality is causality, because reality sounds so singular, but if life is anything, it is plural. There's more so too of anything. Were you to meet someone sublime, the greatest of persons, I imagine you might actually do so at least twice, maybe a male and female counterpart of anything. So a lot of things are at least twice, if anything. So that is plural. So we live in a plural causation. So reality might be redundant and limiting in the fact that it sounds decided, therefore arbitrary, yet also singular, and it also would appear to have a beginning and end. But Arthur Avalon says that some things can be realer than real. Whatever feels real to you, from another vantage point, life could be realer than that. Imagine, so I'm walking down the street, life feels real. This is a real day. Now I go past some construction workers. They're busting it to fix the very infrastructure that allows me to walk down the street. As they're leaning over, as they're crouching over, as they're bending over, as they're inspecting things very big and also very small. That is somewhat of a realer experience to a degree, because it's finer, it's more exact, it's more profound, it's more painful. Maybe it's more satisfaction. It's more satisfaction in doing something like that. So it can be appreciated as a realer experience, or maybe vice versa. So there's a different real can be. There's different grades in experiences of real. So with some of these birds, their consciousness can almost be realer than ours, or more sophisticated. That's in their physical apparatus. But what about their singing? They're communicating. Now you hear birds, and you can be appreciated that they're communicating. You can hear almost a conversation and a syntax and a back and forth, and even like sometimes it feels like they're laughing at you, or they're mocking you. Like, look at this dumb fool. I bet he's about to get his car repoed today. What I meant to say is that what is this singing and talking that they do? Is it really, that would have to take a lot of effort, because as I'm talking, like as much as it sounds effort, it actually does take some effort to run your mouth. Listen also, but run your mouth. So the birds expend so much effort flying, so much effort procuring food and whatnot. But then what do they do with the excess energy, or with the leisure time? Because they do have some time on their hands. If you think about how much they're singing and talking, they're doing a lot of singing and talking. Now, I've pointed out that you have at least 3 grades of birds that I can appreciate, maybe 3 grades of people also. In the East, in different disciplines, they've appreciated different trinities or maybe a better word than just a trinity in itself would just be repetition. Patterns in nature are very significant. Anywhere you see a pattern or repetition of any kind, it would have to have some significance in my estimation. But you have at least like a group of crows. The actual scientific name for that is an unkindness. So you have birds that at least sound unkind. Not to say they're unkind and they don't serve a purpose which can be appreciated as kind, but as their experience, they're unkind. You have obnoxious birds, irritating, mockingbird. So you have an unkindness, you have a mockingbird, and you have a songbird. And you might have similar people and different iterations of that. But it's much ado about much ado. So there would have to be something they're doing. I think that sometimes when you're listening to birds singing, you're actually listening to the balances of that day. Some people would say the ethers, the connectivity of that day, of what will transpire that day, what is transpiring that day, what has already transpired that day, is the birds singing, in my opinion. And I don't know that would be limited to your area, that might actually be resounding broadly. I talked to a person that said that when you see lightning, he was saying that the earth itself is conscious. A lot of our consciousness, he said the most fundamental unit of consciousness that he is aware of is fungus. Is that this reality, this iteration of reality may be a consequence of fungus primarily. If you think about what you consume to exist, it would be somewhere around, at least fungus or bacteria would have to do with that. If you think about how much cooking do we do in an ordinary day? What are you doing with cooking? You are mitigating, you're staving off bacteria, but that bacteria will prevail, because for all the cooking that has been done to this point in existence, where the stoves to stop, that bacteria is going to come back and overwhelm what we normally have achieved with cooking. So that bacteria can be abated, but it cannot be overcome. And yet it may be actually responsible for life. So as much as we think we're protecting ourselves from bacteria and fungus, it might actually be the bacteria and fungus that is allowing us to exist, and we're more so just curating it. We're preparing it, but we're not truly distilling it. So he says that consciousness can be appreciated as fungus, but also the core of the earth is conscious also, and it's similar to that fungus, and that the earth itself is alive as a being and can also communicate broadly. So when you see lightning, this might actually be the earth sending signal, broadly speaking, more broad than we can comprehend. How far can a text message signal, how far can that not go? Then how much further could lightning go if lightning is is an electric message? So I just think these birds are the ethers balancing a day.